How you doing? KP, good evening, sir. Evening. We'll wait just a minute. Hey, you might want to turn that off. Can you hear me now? Okay, that's a little better. Guys, hope you had a good week. We're just kind of waiting here for a minute. If you haven't been paying attention, the storm Iggy is rolling across the Midwest, just wreaking havoc right now. We got a driver out in Nebraska, can't go anywhere. He's in a hotel room now, thank goodness, because it's it's just shut down everywhere. Supposedly that's going to run up into the Northeast later on in the week. So that's what we got going on with that. All right, so we got Hickster. I used to be called Hickster. 73. Andre, hey guys. So tonight, pretty interesting show. We're going to talk about the business side of hotshotting, because what I'm seeing is, Miss Mila, would you please go and pick up the printer from the other room? Thank you. What I see is that a ton of people are jumping into this thing, not knowing what's happening, and the next thing you know, they're out of business. Hey, Chris, I see you over there. I got a driver with me tonight. He's one of the DD214's lease-ons, and he's with me. Hey, Chris, I'll get with you in a second. So this evening, I was trying to let a couple more people jump in here, but we're going to go ahead and move on with this. Business side of hotshot trucking. Guys, by the way, if you come up with a question, what I want you to do is post it down there in the bottom. Miss Mila will post it on the screen there, and we'll answer it. All right, so I want you guys to understand this, that the transportation industry is more than getting your MC and running in and running out and dropping loads. There's just so much more to it that if you've never been around the industry and you don't understand it, it's like walking into brain surgery and saying, hey, I'm going to cut this guy open and fix his head. If you don't know what you're doing, you're bound to kill this guy. And what I'm trying to do tonight is give you a little insight and give you some different ideas as to how you can deal with some of the things you need to be aware of. So over the past few months, I have seen a ton of companies that are less than a year old or right at a year old, and they go out of business. Kevin, well, I'm glad you made it, buddy. But they're going out of business because, one, they're out of compliance and they're not following the rules, and the FMCSA is just done with all that, and they're just shutting people down. And two, they're didn't take care of their money, didn't mind their business, and they're broke, or they made bad decisions in their equipment choices, and they're broke. So tonight, if you look at it, if you start looking at this, before you dive into this thing head first, you want to look at it and say, hey, do I want an MC, or do I want to lease on and run and make money? Because those two things, you can have them both, but one requires a ton more backside paperwork. Okay. The difference between leasing on and owning your own MC is this. Now, Chris is with me today. He has his own MC. He's going to be here. I'm going to put him on here in a minute. And Chris, what he did was parked his MC to get through this this 6, 8, 10, 12-month period where he's going to have issues getting low. So he's running under me right now. His MC is parked and aging. So now that's just a penalty he was willing to pay to age his MC, but he's doing pretty good. So when you're looking at leasing on, you're still your own boss. I mean, each company's different. And each company's going to have their own requirements, things they want you to do. And but as far as just going out running and making money, you're still doing that. And that's still your own. When you apply for and you receive an MC, you become at that point a motor carrier. And now you are responsible for all of you're responsible for all the regulations, knowing them, not the YouTube university regulations where one has an opinion and the other has an opinion, but the actual regulations and studying those and knowing what it means. You are responsible for compliance. You're responsible for money management. You're responsible for everything. Now, things you have to realize when you start with your motor carrier, at that point, you've made it, you've complied with what they wanted you to comply with up to that point. But once you get that motor carrier's license, you fall right into the new entry safety program, and they are monitoring you. So you have to know the compliance end of this thing. So the first thing on here, just understand that between a motor carrier and a lease on, some of these will apply to both. I want to bring Chris on for a minute and say hello and let him tell you how his experience has been real quick. Again, Chris has his own motor carrier. He chose to park it for a little bit and let it age while he's running underneath DD214. So this is Chris. Hey, Chris, here you go. Add to the screen. Oh, man, you're in the dark. You're in the truck, man.
Yeah, I was trying to put some light on it, but it's kind of dark here.
You got a puppy in the truck.
Yeah, I do.
Okay. So
How
tell
you
me,
doing this evening?
you decided to park it for a minute and run under us. How?
You cutting out?
Okay, I got it back now. So
Yes, sir.
did you hear my question?
No, sir.
Okay, I said, so you got your MC, you decided to park it and wait through this period, and you leased on with DD214. How's it going for you?
The lease on with DD214 is going great. I haven't had any issues. The crew that you have is tremendous. I mean, Jake's a phenomenal dispatcher. On my end of it, on the parking the MC and letting it age, that started off pretty rough. Coming into it blind, not really knowing exactly step by step. I got in with the wrong people. Was actually registered as a overseas intermodal carrier.
Wow, good for you.
Somehow that happened. Not real sure. I don't own ships, so I got in with a lady that Bryan uses, and she's gotten me straightened out. Now we're on the right path with that. Had an issue with trying to put the insurance to a more reasonable price while I was parking my MC. Kept fought that for 2 or 3 months. Ended up with a new insurance agent. Got that fixed. So far, and I also my business was out of Texas, which Texas was giving me a bunch of hiccups just because of wanting to park the MC and letting it age. So in the process of that, I actually transferred my business to the state of Arkansas, and we're still currently in the process of making all those changes. But if you're looking to get your own MC, it would be wise to reach out to as many people in as many different states. Even if you live in Tennessee or Kentucky and the state next to you, like for instance, I live in Texarkana, Texas. Okay, there's also a Texarkana, Arkansas. I live maybe 3 miles from the Arkansas state line. And when I done some research and asked quite a few people, the regulations in Arkansas wasn't so bad. In Texas, you had to have your Texas DOT, your US DOT. There's a couple more regulations, and starting off not knowing the difference, I spent thousands of dollars. I mean thousands of dollars to get started. When in reality,
I think he locked up.
can you hear me? Hello.
You okay?
Yes, sir. I can hear you. Your screen was frozen. My screen was still going. About 5.
Both of my screens were frozen, so I don't know what was heard. But point, when you're diving into this stuff and you're not sure what you're doing, and this is sort of why I'm into this thing today, is trying to explain to everybody this is not what you think it is. There's a lot more to this game than just picking up loads and setting down loads. Chris, do you mind staying with me?
Yeah, I'm good. I'm good.
Okay, I'm going to go on and run down. If you got anything to say, Chris, just wave your hand or something, and I'll bring you back on.
Yes, sir.
Hang on 1 second. Okay, so Chris jumped in thinking that he was doing it the right way, and he spent a bunch of money he didn't need to spend. Now, the things that are really important to understand on the back side of this thing is you have to be organized, and you have to get organized. You can't be throwing your receipts around thinking they're going to do you good later on. If you can't find them, they're useless. I've got 2 file cabinets in there full of stuff. So you got to get organized, number one, and you got to realize that it's a business. It's not just picking up loads, man. The first thing you've got to get in your head is compliance, and realize that if you're not compliant and you're not legal and you're not safe, you will never make any money in this business. This is what it takes. Now, compliance, whether you lease on or you get your own MC, compliance is a big deal, because if you lease on, the majority of the compliance is going to come from the company you leased on to. They're going to be guiding you through these things. Whereas if you are an MC, you're going to have to know it, and you're going to have to be out there, and you got to know the rules. So that's number one. Number two, I see, is monthly, quarterly, and annual reports with an MC. And if you have your own MC, you have to do these reports. And if you don't do them, they will shut you down. And you have to understand that. On a monthly report, for right now, Connecticut requires you to file monthly. Some of the other states may too. If they have huts, you have to be on top of all that. So you have that. You have a quarterly report, which is your IFTA. Okay, those reports have to be filed. Then you have your annual reports that have to go in, which is with your state. Secretary of State has to be filed every year. Now, when you come back down past that, you have your bookkeeping issues, and I want to talk to you about that. There's probably better programs out there for trucking. I personally use QuickBooks to keep my stuff organized. And like I said, there's probably a better program out there. But you're going to have to um, get a program for where you are able to keep your stuff organized. I mean, that's just it. You have got to keep it organized because the tax man's coming. And if you're not organized, I guarantee you one thing, they'll get you. So even though whether you lease on or whether you get your own MC, you got to be organized with your money. So the now, as Chris knows, every week he gets a pay sheet, tells him exactly what's happened on that week, and he can break it down easily, stick it in there. On our backside, we have I do um, I do some accounting. Mila does some accounting. We have another girl, it's Rita. We have an accountant who does our books, and then we have a tax accountant. So that's how this thing has grown to this point. Now, further down, and you may not, for an MC, you're going to have to keep up with your billing and collections, and that's a big deal. Now you say, well, I've got a um, factoring company that does that. Well, do they really? Because they may not. Okay. Factoring companies, they'll charge you a percentage and give you 90 days. Okay. If that, and I'll tell you who's the worst is Landstar, and they're one of the biggest. If you bring in or you give them a piece of paper that does not meet their criteria, they don't reach out and tell you, hey, we need this resubmitted. They just let it sit. I'm going to give you a quick story on this. This happened to me last year. This happened to me prior to June of last year. We were factoring a lot of money and we were running a bunch of trucks. And so what happened was I wasn't paying attention. And all of a sudden I got hit with a late fee from my factoring company. It was $100 and it was on a $2,000 load. So it's 5%. So I called, raised a little bit of hell trying to figure out what was going on. And this is my mistake. And you have to understand, I'm trying to let you learn from my mistakes. I wasn't paying attention to the collections end of it. I figured the factoring took care of it. It would be no big deal. No, they let it run out. Look, guys, I had $250,000 outstanding. And how much? 39,000 of it was over 90 days.
They hold it already.
Yeah, they had already stopped payment on $39,000. And I am raising hell because I don't know what's happening and I didn't understand what was going on. But I ended up hiring a person to deal with anything at 30 days. Now, we got that rectified. How long did it take?
3 months.
3.5 months to collect that money that was over 90 days. And the brokers don't care. If you didn't send it in or it was missing a piece of paper, they just post it over in the corner. You know, they're hoping you don't follow up because they're not going to pay it. And that's the way they are. So, yeah, I like to, had a stroke. I was like, Jesus Christ. And I really didn't even realize at that point I had that much money out, but I did. Okay, so you got to keep up on your billing and your collections because nobody gives a shit about your money but you. And that's a fact. All right, so keeping up with the maintenance on your trucks and trailers. As a lease-on driver, that's your little world. That's what you do. Your truck and trailer, that's your deal. You key it in and keep up with it. As an MC, if you only have one truck and you're it, then that's fine. You do that. But now we're running all these trucks. Now I have to keep up not only with my truck and trailer, but with their truck and trailer, because I have to show that the maintenance is being done on these trucks and trailers. Because once you start leasing on, you're responsible for that truck and trailer. Okay. All right. So things you're going to need to be dealing with on the backside too is taxes. That's both of you, but the driver on a lease on situation will get a 1099 at the end of the year, and that'll be it. He can just turn that in. That's it. As an MC, much, much, much more involved. We have to send out 1099s. Our accountants have to get all this stuff together. It's a lot. So you have to be keeping up with your nights out, okay? Because you get a per diem on that, and it's 60. I don't know if it's 64 or 69. It's somewhere in that, but it's 60 some dollars. So here I needed something to do, and think about this. And I really didn't mean to start an MC and ended up like I've got it. That's not what I designed it to do. What I really designed it to do was just say, I need something to get me out of this chair and go do something. And then, of course, the veterans and first responders, I started looking at some of this stuff and it didn't make sense to me. So I added something else. Well, now in 3 years' time, we have how many? How many we got total? Both sides? 20. No, it's 22. We got 22 drivers that we're responsible for right now. And on top of that, we have a dispatch company with 20 some dispatchers. And on top of that, we got this thing we're trying to teach. So, yeah. So, yeah. You guys, your businesses will grow, whether you want an MC, whether you want to deal with all the bullshit on the backside of this thing. That's a decision you should make, because that's what you're getting into with an MC. If you just want to drive and lease on and do what you want to do, then you've got that side to do too. So figure out what you want to do before you jump into one thing or the other, because even though they're similar, they're much different. Hey, Chris, you got anything to add? You want to jump up here for a minute? Where'd you go?
Yeah,
Yeah, I got you.
I kind of got a little bit of light.
There it is.
I kind of got a little light so we can see a little bit.
There you go. You're driving the sexy truck. Chris is a level 1 roadside magnet.
Hey, cross my fingers. We working on Monday. I'll make 3 weeks since I had the last one, but prior to that, it was one every week for
right?
For about a month and a half.
Do you have anything you want to interject in what I was just talking about?
Other than on starting your own MC, I have a goal, and from the jump, my goal was to own my own business. And when I say that, it's not going to be a one truck operation. But when I reached out to Bryan, and how I found Bryan is actually off of YouTube. I watched probably 90% of his videos before I reached out to him, and to get some advice and see about it. And my goal at first was just to use a dispatching service, and then that's when I learned that, with a young MC, the likability of getting loads was going to be slim to none. So I decided to lease on. Don't get me wrong, I pay out the ass every month for my own MC to just stay there. I pay insurance every month on it. I pay a lady to keep up with all my IFTA and make sure I'm staying compliance. It's not all cookies and milk for sure, but
right.
If you're willing to, I feel like if you're willing to stick it out and take the chance, I've always lived off of the man sitting behind watching the other man. He ain't never gonna get there. So, but Bryan's taught me a lot, and I mean, anytime I've ever picked up the phone, Bryan's never gave me a cold shoulder. Has always answered it. even if it wasn't the correct answer that I was looking for, not saying it wasn't the correct answer, even if it
What
wasn't
you
the
wanted to
answer,
hear?
wasn't what I wanted to hear, I got to hear it, and that's the honesty. And I'm gonna stick it out. We're gonna keep the MC there and let it age for a while. Probably a full year, and then we're gonna start spreading our wings a little bit and seeing where we can go with it, and not try to grow in one day. But I got good goals, and I feel like with the correct people, and especially Iggy Six Dispatching, I mean they're second to none. And if you never met or talked or had a conversation with Jake over the phone, he's a little fast spoken, but I promise you, if you stay on top of your game and you got an issue, and if you pick up the phone and call him as soon as the issue occurs, usually 99% of the time that issue is resolved in a matter of a few minutes. Um, just the biggest thing, even as a lease-on driver, it's not Brian's responsibility to reach out and call the shipper, reach out and call the receiver, and ask, hey, this is the kind of type of trailer I got. Is it going to work when I get there, or do you have the correct equipment? I kind of burnt myself a couple of times by not reaching out early enough and asking the receiver, hey, do you have the correct equipment to get me offloaded? And I get there, and now I'm sitting for 2 hours because they don't have the right equipment. Even though they ordered the material, they didn't know how big it was, or they didn't know the dimensions of it. They
Right.
just think they're going to get there and it's going to be a crate. They can unload it and go on about their day. And so staying on top of your pickups and deliveries and where they're going, and look ahead, see what get on Google Earth, see what the location looks like. I mean,
See, these are great points. I hope everybody's listening because this is stuff he's learned over the last few months. And this is stuff that you can't learn on YouTube. You
no,
just can't.
definitely not.
You got to be out there, turning and burning to learn this stuff. Sorry, go ahead.
Like last Thursday, I ran a load into Brooklyn, New York, and if you have never been into Brooklyn, New York, it's tight, real
It's
tight.
tight.
And the guy I was going to deliver, he worked construction and dealt with heavy equipment, so he was really good to deal with. But now I went to Long Island, New York, the Friday prior to this to pick up AC units going to Wilmington, West Virginia.
Delaware. Oh, was it? Okay.
And I get there, it's at a Home Depot, and they got a 2K forklift with 4-foot forks to load 20 KAC units that are 8 foot wide and 10 feet long. Well, that's a problem. So
A little bit.
they had to reach out and get the right forklift to get it loaded. But just, and I mean, if you're more than willing, Brian, if they can call me if they got an issue with a load, or question about how something should be loaded. Brian's really good about that. I've questioned Brian a couple times on something that I loaded and want to know, hey, is this sufficient on the securement? That's the biggest thing. I feel like you can never have too much securement. Matter of fact, I ran into a scale in Kentucky and got pulled in for my first level 1, and I was hauling two 20-foot connexes, and I had 4 chains, 4 binders on both connexes, and 2 straps per connex. And the first thing the officer said was, "Well, that's not going anywhere."
That's right.
He said, "I've seen guys come in here and they got 2 chains and 2 binders on each one, and that's not sufficient." So make sure you have enough securement. If you don't have it on the trailer, don't tell your dispatcher you can haul the load, because you get there and the shipper sees that you're trying to make something work that probably isn't going to hold their load down, they're probably going to reject you. And right now on my truck, I have 8 binders, 6 20-foot chains, 5 10-foot chains, 15 2-inch straps, and 6 4-inch straps on the side rail on my trailer. Now I probably won't ever use all that at one time, but
You
if
got
one
it.
breaks, or one gets frayed,
Right.
like today, I bought just yesterday. I bought 12 brand new straps. Threw some old ones away that had a little nick in it. One of the brand new ones I bought yesterday got a fray in it today. First place that thing went was a dumpster. I kept the ratchet, but that 2-inch strap's no longer good.
Right.
DOT sees a fray in it, and they're gonna get you on it.
Yeah, they're going to mark it down. So just to let you guys know one thing, and this is not off subject, but understanding once you get into the business long enough, you're going to run into this. And we ran into, actually, Chris and I ran into it, or Chris ran into it, and we sort of had to deal with it. But the problem was the other night, Chris got to the delivery. The delivery person refused to offload it, and there we sat. And
This is
go ahead.
This was after I verified that they would offload me before I loaded the load.
Right, right. So the whole thing is this: in this situation, before it was said and done, there was a lot of arguing back and forth. Before it was all done, the owner of the company that brokered the load and myself was dealing with this, because as an MC, it's your responsibility to deal with these types of problems. And guys, if you don't know what you're doing, you are going to get taken advantage of. Tell it, Chris.
That's correct.
Isn't that right?
I learned a very valuable lesson on somebody else's dime. That was Monday night. So Monday and Monday night and Tuesday morning. And if it would have been myself without the knowledge of Bryan and the background that Bryan has with learning the hard way, which I usually do learn the hard way, but Bryan taught me a very valuable lesson that will go forever in this industry Monday night.
Tell me.
So we got
You don't
there
have
to
to tell the
offload.
whole story. You can just, what was the lesson?
The lesson was to know the rule book. Know the rule book. They try to say that we were holding the load hostage. The load wasn't being held hostage. They refused to pay the rate that Bryan has listed on the package, and wanted us to set on the load overnight for a lesser amount. And then once they brought up the hostage and said that we was holding the load hostage, so to speak, Bryan put the rule book on them, and then they started catwalking.
Yeah, that's right. And again,
Bryan,
that falls into, you got to know the rules. And if you don't know the rules, I'm going to tell you something. From the time I was in, maybe out of the Marine Corps, 28, 29 years old, my philosophy was this: if you will give me the rule book, I will beat you to death with it. So that is the key, is you've got to know these rules. And when you know the rules and you can quote them back and forth, they're not going to fight you on it. They're going to back up and regroup. So that was a whole scenario that went on until, early evening on Monday. So, okay, I'm going to drop you down real quick. We're going to take a Q&A. Matter of fact, Chris, I'll just leave you there if you don't mind, and we have questions. Can you see the screen okay?
yes, sir.
Okay, so we'll just leave you there. So what's our first question? What we got, me? How often do you service your trucks? Okay, so just so you know, my Bessie is serviced every 15,000 miles. Just took my trailer in at 30,000 on it and did a axle service. And when I do a service, I do both fuel filters, oil filter, new oil, and and that's it. But every 15,000 miles, and then as the miles go up, I add things. So, Chris, you?
Well, I'm a little bit more strict on my oil changes. I service my truck every 5,000 miles on oil, and I do every 10,000 miles on fuel filters and air filter. On my trailer, just a few weeks ago, I was up in Pennsylvania and had an issue with my trailer brakes. So we had to pull the axles down and put new magnets in the hubs. So they just got serviced not long ago, but I'll probably run them for probably 30,000 on the trailer, and which I got about another 16,000. It'll be time to pull them down. You know, I run oil hubs, so
Yeah,
I'll
me
put
too.
I'll put new seals in them and check the bearings. Make sure the bearings don't have no wear or tear in it. Make sure there's nothing. You know, another thing on the magnets. If you do have, which I'm sure everybody has, electric trailer brakes over hydraulic, either way. If the surface if the surface of the drum is that's touching the magnet, if it is grooved or has any wear or particles in it, it's going to chew that magnet up, and that's what I ran into. It took us 2 days to track this down. I had my truck in a Ford dealership, cost me out the yin yang. They changed parts that didn't need to be changed. Then ended up finding a really good place in Pennsylvania that worked on trailers, and they had a machine, hooked my trailer up to it. Everything showed that it worked, especially on these Fords. Not to get off subject too much, but on these Fords, it'll show trailer disconnected, and all your lights will work. And if you don't have trailer brakes, it's usually going to be in the magnets. We tested it with it on the ground, and the brakes would lock up. Once we jacked the trailer up, we noticed that once we applied the trailer brakes, only the driver's side was locking up.
Oh,
That was still sending a faulty code to the truck saying the truck didn't have trailer didn't have trailer brakes. But not to get off subject, just maintenance is key thing. You can ask Bryan. I'm putting roughly 3,500 to 5,000 miles a week on my truck,
that's right.
and well, more to 4,000. And when it hits 5,000, if I got a good spot to shut down for the night, as soon as the truck cools off, I'm throwing a drain pan under it, pulling a plug. It takes 15 minutes to change oil on one of these trucks if you are mechanically inclined. Some people don't want to touch it. Some people would rather take it somewhere, and that's fine too. Just wherever you're going. I've ran into this before. They'll tell you they're putting in Rotella, or they're telling you they're putting in some Dectron oil, and come to find out they're putting 10W30 in it, because that's just what they're going to sell you to make $1. So especially for us guys that run throughout the United States, what I've come across, the same thing I ran into in Harrisburg, Pennsylvania. I called them, called the Ford dealership, told them I had an issue. They said, well, it'll be 2 weeks. I said, look, I'm a cash customer. It's not warranty. I need it fixed ASAP. They said, okay, no problem. We can get you in at 10 o'clock in the morning. That should have been my first sign. But paying out of pocket, they're going to get you in so they get that money, not have to worry about warranty. They told me they was changing a trailer brake control module. Not until the next day at a different Ford dealership did they run the part number on the invoice and find out they changed a trailer light control module on my truck.
Oh,
So
a little bit different.
A little bit different, doesn't do the same job.
Right.
So just know, if you don't know what you're dealing with, don't trust everybody. Even if it's a dealership, doesn't mean they're going to say the right part or treat you like they would, somebody local. The deal is they see an easy dollar to make, and they're going to make it.
They're just trying to get, the warranty's 30 feet down the street.
Yes.
So
that's about it.
Okay, so what do we got next? Yeah. I wanted to ask, I sent an email about dispatch service, didn't get a response. I'll tell you why. And Ozzy, I'm going to respond. Sir, I didn't mean not to respond. But I had a little issue with my email, and it's being recovered as we speak. So as soon as I get it recovered, I'll get back. I'm looking at, okay. Chris, what kind of trailer you have?
Woo! Let's get started. Big Tex.
No. This says I'm looking at a Big Tex 16 GN 35.5 with twin 8,000 K axles. What kind of trailer do you recommend? Ozzy, is this non-CDL? Yes, I'm assuming since you got two twin 8,000.
It is a non-CDL. Big Tech specializing at 16 GN's a non-CDL rig. It's the same one Toe Piglet ordered.
Oh, I got you.
Yes, sir.
So is it recommended? Big Tex is just as good as any, I guess. Well, you're shaking your head no, Chris. I'll let you go. Do it.
So I own a Big Tex. The current trailer I am pulling right now is a Big Tex.
Then you should know something.
So when I bought this Big Tex, I bought this trailer on Thursday. Turned around on Friday, was back online looking to buy a trailer for a buddy of mine that wanted one similar. I found a Gator for half the price, 2 years older. And if I put them side by side and walk down both trailers, the quality of a Big Tex, I'm from Texas, they build them right there in Mount Pleasant, Texas, 60 miles from my house. The quality of a Big Tex is not what you're paying for, if you're asking me.
Hey, Ozzy popped up here for a second, and he said he's going to run CDL. Then don't buy that trailer.
No,
that's
16
that's the wrong trailer.
Yeah, you can only gross 10,000 on that 16 GN.
Yeah, you need to go up to a 24 GN or something.
Mine's a 40-foot 35.5, and it's a Big Tex 22 GN.
Gotcha.
They make a 25 GN that has 15K axles under it.
Yeah, gotcha. Okay, so Ozzy, thanks for your question. I will be back in touch with you. Listen, let's get into the business into this thing just a little bit more. And I want to tell you, if you don't pay attention to your business, before we get off on any other kind of craziness here, if you don't pay attention to your business, you will be out of business. And if you think I'm wrong, the reason I'm talking about this now is because of what Chris just said. If you think I'm wrong, ask Topig. He was not on top of his business. His insurance got away from him, and he lost it. That's all there is to it. I think it was more than that personally, but I'm going with what he said. Now, if I hadn't been on top of my business, my insurance with Chris and the first few drivers, they were going to charge me $110,000. Chris's insurance went down. You have to stay on top of all this. Go ahead.
My insurance, yes, sir. My insurance on the lease-on did go down.
It did.
On the MC side, on my personal MC side of it, was not the case.
Well, you just have to stay on top of. Yeah, you got one, Chris. This is to you. It says he didn't finish answering the question. Why is Big Tex not a quality trailer? But before he starts, just so you know, Big Tex and PJ and most of these other outfits are all owned by the same company. Okay. And if you bought one, and I'll give you this example. I bought my first one, which was a PJ 32-footer, non-CDL setup. Never had an ounce of problem with that trailer. The new one I purchased, which was a 35.5 deck over air ride, I've had nothing but broke welds. You got to inspect this thing all the time. Let's put it this way. I had it in the shop so much that PJ wanted my banking information so they could just start ACHing me stuff. That's how much it was in the shop. So go ahead, Chris.
On the same subject. So prior to me coming to the trucking industry, I worked 8 years building power plants, chemical plants. So when it comes to welds, I pretty much know what I'm looking at. And when you look over, and this might not be every Big Tex, but I've parked beside a few at truck stops and just take a glance at them. The quality in the welds.
Yep.
If you got two joints meeting up and your weld goes across the joint and not with the joint, that's not a quality weld to me. It's not going to hold. On the mega ramps, you know, when you flip the mega ramps down, you got a platform there. This trailer doesn't have much wear and tear on it. The guy I bought it from, it's a 2019 model. And I've already had to fix welds on the deck. I've had to fix, you know, wiring issues. It's just, when I look at quality, I'm gonna look at welds, because guess what's gonna hold you on the road? If you put a load on it, you want it to hold the load. If you like Bryan said, if you got welds breaking, or you pull up to a place to pick up a load and they see a crack in your trailer, they're probably not gonna load you. So when I look at a quality built trailer, I want to see penetration in the welds, and you can see that if you know what a weld looks like, a good weld. You can see penetration in the welds. The jacks on the front of it, two of the bolts, you can tell they got cross threaded and galled it up. They didn't think to cut that bolt out and run a new bolt in.
Right.
They just hit it with impact. It's loose. It rattles. How to fix that? Just the little stuff that can cause big problems. You got to think, if something falls off of your trailer going down the highway and it hits somebody behind you, you're responsible for that.
That's right.
You're responsible for it. And I don't know if y'all saw in Toledo, Ohio the other day, yesterday, about 2:30 in the afternoon, a set of tandems come off the 18-wheeler running southbound, hit and killed a northbound driver head on. A set of tandems off 18-wheeler. So that's just to say, I don't know if you can live with it. I can't live with something falling off my trailer and killing somebody. So every time I get home, I go through my trailer. I try to make sure nothing's broke, no welds are cracked, because it takes a little piece that big to come off and go through a windshield. That's it. So the quality, get back to your question, the quality to me is a well-built trailer. Welds are intact, nothing's cracking, and you know, we don't haul too terribly heavy. I think the heaviest load I've hauled was 16.5, and I can grow 17.9 on the trailer. And to me, that's not enough weight to, and you're not hauling that every single day. The load I hauled today was 10,000 pounds.
Right.
Yesterday was 11,000 pounds. So just look at the quality, the welds, the way it's built. Another thing about welds. One thing about welds I saw underneath my trailer, where the axle supports are welded to the trailer, it looked like they took a MIG rig and just ran a bead on it. So I'm not sure if you're safe for that, but I'm not. So, you know, beef the welds up or look at your trailer, do an inspection. Don't buy it sight unseen.
Right. All right, we got Ozzy up here again. He said, can you explain the pitfalls of using an out-of-state address to lower the insurance? I'm out of Florida, which is a very, very expensive state to get insurance in. I can save $5,000. Hey, look, no, it's absolutely worth the savings. If you can do it, you get your, you know, once I get my email back and we talk, I can put you together with a compliance officer that will help you set up what you need to set up to move your plate. But it is, I mean, Tennessee's got a really low rate. If you go down the road and look at tractor trailers, most of the trailers are plated out of Illinois simply because of the insurance costs. So no, I don't think there's any pitfalls in it. I think there's a big savings in it. All right, so what do we got? We're about done? All right. Well, Chris, listen, thank you, brother. You be safe. You got that storm coming over there.
Yeah, I know. I'm headed to Lebanon, Ohio tonight, pick up in the morning and run it to New Jersey. So I'm hoping that Jake gets me something going south after that.
South. Yeah, that's right. All right. Well, listen, guys, I'm going to end this. Thank you so much for attending. Chris, thank you so much for helping out. This is Bryan with 214 Transport. Like, subscribe, hit the little bell for notifications. All you guys, listen. Thank you, first responders. Thank you, veterans, for all you do and all you continue to do to this or for this country. It's been a long night. So I'm going to shut it down now. If you need me, reach out. Talk to you soon.